morning, Known community. Welcome to the Connection Corner. I am Barb Nangle. I'm the community manager here at Known. And in a moment, I am going to welcome Juan Salas-Romer. He is the founder of Known and the executive director of the KNOWNpreneurs Growth Lab, which is going to be the subject of our chat today. But before I do that, I want to tell you a little bit about Known. It's a dynamic co-working community to connect entrepreneurs across their fields of endeavors, expertise, and experiences. We started as just a regular old co-working community here in downtown New Haven, and we're still the only co-working community downtown. And we've expanded into a multifaceted entrepreneur support organization, which is why we're talking about the KNOWNpreneurs program today. And as a reminder, Known Co-working has hourly, daily, and monthly plans for dedicated desks and offices, as well as conference rooms and Zoom rooms available for rent. We also have day passes for coworkers and flex desks. If you'd like to know more about the space, feel free to send me an email. You can reach me at barb@knowncoworking.com. You can also check us out on nhvknown.com or follow us on Instagram or Facebook at Known Coworking and DM us there. One of the ways that we support entrepreneurs is through our virtual program. So we have Digital Media Sync, which just recently started back up again, and the Connection Corner, which is this show. You can catch replays. We have over 100 of our digital programs. They're free on our website. Look on the Known website under events. Digital Media Sync is your window to the digital world. It's hosted by Julia Gambale. She's the social media maven of Agents of Branding. And then this show, the Connection Corner, is a place for entrepreneurs, creators, thinkers, and innovators to share either how they support the entrepreneurship ecosystem in the New Haven area or to profile actual entrepreneurs in this area. If you or anyone you know would like to be on the show, send me an email. Again, it's barb@knowncoworking.com. And we can talk about that. Our purpose in both the physical world and in the virtual world is to make connections between people. We're here to help you get connected, inspired, and known. In addition, I host weekly in-person networking at Known on Wednesdays. It's called Wind Down Wednesdays. It's from 3 to 5 here at Known every Wednesday. We're at 139 Orange Street. We're on the 4th floor. Please join me for that. Now I would like to introduce Juan. So let's bring him on. Hey, Juan.
Hey, Barb. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm so glad to have you here. This is really great to have you as my guest. I know you were a guest before, but not just you. You were here with other folks. So
yeah, one of the Zoom booths, by the way.
What was that?
I'm using one of the Zoom booths that you just
right. Yeah. So he's here in the same building with me, but he's in a different space so that we're not echoing off of each other. So before we get into talking about the KNOWNpreneurs Growth Lab, I'd love to hear about you and your background and what has inspired you over the years.
Thanks, Barb. Yes, my background comes from banking, real estate, and also entrepreneurship in general. I was born and raised in Venezuela, and I started several companies, both in real estate and retail. I was involved in telecommunication. And when I came to the U.S., I was involved in banking, community banking, as well as private financing. I started a company called Sunrise Financial, and I used to finance rehabbers. People would flip properties and all that, and we would provide the short-term bridge funding for them to do the project, and then they will go on and refi with regular banks, or they will sell and then pay us back. And that experience helped me really understand the ins and outs of real estate development from the point of view of the lender. And then back this started in 2005. And in 2009, I started a company called NHR Properties. That stands for New Haven Redevelopers. And what we did is we renovated about 43 properties in total for the last 12, 15 years. Anything from the small multifamily housing to a hotel. We actually own a hotel in downtown New Haven, in Long Wharf, called the New Haven Village Suites, which is an extended stay hotel. And so my background came from that. And in 2019 is when the idea of developing a co-working space and building this community that we now have came about. So yeah, I guess My background comes from several different fields of expertise, but primarily is banking and real estate development and business development in general.
Yeah, what I've seen since I've known you is that all that stuff has come in super handy for the stuff you're doing with Knowpreneurs. Speaking of Knowpreneurs, I don't know if you caught the comment. We got a comment from one of our original Knowpreneurs from cohort 1, Juan Grant, Men's Styling Company, saying love you too. So thank you so much for watching, Grant Juan. It's really great to the community that we've created here with the Knowpreneurs program. So what is the problem that Known helps to solve? What is it about the Known community that you felt like it was time and place to create this?
So one of the things that from the point of view of an immigrant coming in to the U.S., and also from a point of view of people who are like living in the periphery of this economic superhighway that the U.S. is about, it's really there support structures that are you would think that they would be just naturally there, but they're not really there. And what I come to realize, if I was developing real estate and forming companies to lend to people, is that that superhighway takes you a big leap to get into, and one of the reasons is there's certain barriers that come in the way, and one of the things that I thought that, and the reason why the problem that I saw is that those barriers are given a huge disadvantage to some communities in the U.S. One of the things that I noticed is that the Black and Latin population, based on wealth numbers, is 8 to 10 times poorer than the white population. And I started investigating, why was that the case? And one of the reasons is the generational wealth that pass it on from families to families, and then the other one is access to the jobs and incomes in general. There's about 40,000 median income differences between the white population and Black and Latino. And I started digging deeper into this, and I was like really concerned because one of the things that brought about the whole issues in my original country, which is Venezuela, it was the disappearance of really the middle class. And when the middle class collapses, then democracy collapses, and then you have great political polarization, and it's really the end of institutions and all that. And I went through all that process in my country. And when I came here to the U.S., and I started to see the kind of like some of the same symptoms that I saw in my country, and I kind of like started focusing on, let's start looking statistically, what's going on, why there's these gaps are created in a country so rich like the U.S. And what I found is that one of the things that it needs to happen is greater access to organizations that go in between the existing structures and those communities that are served, that could translate the work of the bigger companies. I'll give you examples. When you're in real estate, you could do small projects what you want, but to get from that real estate small project to institutional capital, which is a super highway of capital, then it's a huge leap. So how do you get from that very bottom to all the way up? So I started really digging into that, and I said, well, what if we create an accelerator program that will bring those step by step process to get you there? And that's kind of what it all brought about. My inclination to really help contribute to bridging that gap.
Mm-hmm. So you've actually kind of leapt into my next question, which is, now that you kind of talked about what the problem is, how does the Knowpreneurs program solve that?
Right. So one of the things that we do at Knowpreneurs is we take rising entrepreneurs. By rising, I mean people who already are way past the idea stage, and they're actually selling a product or service, and they're actually having some success, but they're still very little, and they need some support. The supports that they need, typically access to capital, access to a bigger marketplace, and capacity, training capacity. And what we do at Knowpreneur is that we provide what I said I'd say the 5 C's is capacity, capital, bring customers in, coaching, and community. And those are the 5 things that any entrepreneur who wants to scale, develop, really needs are those 5 C's. And the way we do it is through providing um, uh, some systematic approach in terms of analyzing, your goals, and really making you accountable and going step by step in the process to try to move the needle in a 4 months process. And at the end of the day, we see tremendous results. And the fact that you are part of the community, it really gives you an edge to really grow even faster. It's a very big motivational factor.
I hope that's you're reaching down there to turn off your phone signal.
This is, it's showing battery running low. I think this is
oh no. Okay.
Yeah, no, this was my laptop for some reason.
Oh, it's your laptop. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Everything's cool.
So we got another. I want to put it back up again. We got another comment from Juan. He said, "I love the Knownnpreneurs. It's the best. It changed my life." And then he's got another comment. He says, "Thank you for all you do. I talk about this program to every one entrepreneur creative I know." So like this is the kind of feedback that we're getting. And Juan was in our first cohort. We are currently recruiting for our fourth cohort. So that being said, can you tell us about the profile of a typical Knownnpreneur?
So I like to take Juan as an example. Actually, Juan came to us, and he was like in between, jobs, and he was like, working full time for a company, and he was also with this idea of doing consulting, fashion consultant for men, right? And but he never built a business, so he wanted to really understand what it takes and what are the elements that he needed, what are the capacities that he needed to create a business plan, a budgeting, and all that. So he took the journey of the Knownnpreneurs, and and today he has his own store, and he's recognized by the community, and he's known. He's actually making a lot of progress and consulting with a lot of people, and even improving his business. The journey of a Knownnpreneurs is a typical profile. Someone who's probably their second year in business, but it could be in their 5th year in business, but at least in the second year of business, that has about $50,000 in sales in the last 12 months, and is looking to scale that to make the business a livelihood. Some of them are already well in advance, and they're really making a living. And what they're looking for is to scale. I would say that there are 3 types of situations that we see in Knownnpreneurs. One situation is those who are really trying to make their business their livelihoods, and they have the focus there is trying to stabilize their cash flow. And a lot of the things that they need is not only infrastructure support, but also more importantly is getting a larger following to sell their products or services. So we work with them on numerous aspects. One big one is branding and marketing and all that. A second group is already there in terms of they're making a living, but they are their own worst enemy, meaning they are typically their own bottleneck, and they can't scale their business because they don't know how to delegate, assign tasks and create a team. So we help them in that regard. And I would say the third one is one that is already growing, but is really growing with no control whatsoever. When you ask them, I'm making $1 million, but where you ask the bottom line to see, how much money you're going to really bring this year, you have no answer to that. And it's if I ask them, where do you see yourself in 3 years, in 5 years, and they say, well, I want to be a $20 million company. They don't know what it takes to get to that level. So that's a different type of coaching that takes place. So I would say those are the 3 typical profiles that we see in Knownnpreneurs.
Okay, that's wonderful. I love that. And who can apply to the program?
Right now we're catering to all Connecticut. Physical space is in New Haven, but we do our classes via Zoom. So it's really focused on minorities and Black and Latin population. It's where we're focusing now. We're backed by City Next and also the Community Foundation. So we have that charter, and and to fulfill our mission, as I explained at the beginning. So if you are you belong to an underrepresented minority group, you are welcome to apply to the program, to the Knownnpreneur program.
Wonderful. And just as a reminder, we did have a deadline, but we extended it to August 31st. So it is not too late. And I've put the website, knownnpreneurs.com, where you can find out more information about it and where you can apply to it. What kind of barriers do you think there are in place, either for the BIPOC community in general becoming entrepreneurs, or folks applying to the Knownnpreneurs program? What are you seeing?
Well, I mean, there's several barriers that I see for growth. One of it is that these are groups or populations or communities that are in areas that are normally very poor, and there's not enough resources. I explained at the beginning, one of the issues is generational wealth. So there's not enough generational wealth. Just to give you an example, the typical business and white population versus business in the Black population, when you look at startup capital, is 1 to 4, the relationship. Meaning, if I start with 100,000 in general, if in the white population, I would start with 25,000 in the Black population. These are real numbers that are out there, and that you can see. So that one of them is access to capital, is the ability to really get that kind of support. And the way we work with folks in that specific situation is that we connect them to grants that are available for minority entrepreneurs. There's plenty of resources, and we're also when you graduate from our program, we through a partnership with the Community Economic Development Fund. We award the entrepreneurs $10,000 or more in lines of credit. So you start building your credit from right from the get-go. That's one of them. I could cite also the marketplace. There's not enough to market when you just say, well, if I have a business and I want to cater to the Black population, what I see is that will be a starting point. But as you grow, you tend to cater to a bigger population. We have for instance, a mental health business that started catering to a Black population. Nowadays, it's catering to all the population, and now it's a business started with us at about $100,000, and within a year, that's a $500,000 business, and it's just amazing and very rewarding to see that happening. The other thing is access to talents, because you're coming from the location, the community you're coming from, your relationships takes you so far. But when you come to Knownnpreneurs, that world opens up, because immediately you start connecting to the people who are in the know. You're connected to the people who have the resources to take you places. And that's one of the things that we do at Known, and we do that systematically. And I gotta give kudos to you, Barb, because you are amazing at making those connections. Like you said, every Wednesday when we do the wind down, we got a dozen people here every single week connecting each other, and you keep a log on everybody who you're connecting with, and actually we celebrate with excitement that, hey, I connected this with this, and real dollars are passed on those relationships. So that's one of the things that we do. We have an eclectic audience that comes to us. We kind of preach in town and gown here, and I think this is exciting that we are able to provide that interface.
Yeah, and I just want to say, it looks like he lost power. So hopefully he will either get back on or come and join me here. But one of the things I want to say about what he just said about the connecting is that, my job here at the Known Coworking Okay, let's see. He just joined me. So let's see if we can get in the same camera. So my job here as the community manager is to create connections between people. And to be honest with you, I was born to do that. I cannot stop doing it. So it's my thrill and honor to be able to do that. And the thing is, the more I know about you, the more likely I am to be able to make connections for you. A couple more things I want to say about what you just said, Juan. One, I feel like we would be doing a disservice to not say the reason for all these barriers is the structural inequality in the society, especially racism, and that's where it's coming from. Another question I want to ask you about, because I know that there's a lot of confusion between people, because you mentioned that there's availability of grants. You mentioned also line of credit. You didn't mention loans, but I know that there's a lot of confusion between people, among people sometimes, between what's a grant, what's a line of credit, and what's a loan. So can you just briefly touch on that?
Sure. So a grant is not, it's basically an agreement, right, between two parties where one party is going to use funds from an institution, typically a public institution or a nonprofit, for the purpose of a certain, typically social mission, socioeconomic mission, and it's not, there's no need to pay back. That's what a grant is. The loan is basically leverage. Is basically you have a commitment to pay back to the bank. When you get a loan, you could have, like, when you buy a house, you have typically a 30-year mortgage, and you pay the mortgage throughout those years, with the goal of paying the house in full in that period of time. A line of credit is a loan instrument as well, but it works like a credit card. It's basically money that is available for you to pay on a short-term basis. Typically, is used for managing receivables. If you have a business where you get paid every 30 days, every 60 days or so, and you want to have cash flow to provide the services while you get paid, then line of credit is a great instrument to have. So it's basically what we call working capital. Is the cash that you have in the bank that allows you to operate while you get paid. So it bridges 30, 60, 90 days. So that's what typically you want to use a line of credit for.
Okay, wonderful. I'm glad you articulated that. So the next thing I want to hear about is, what's the typical journey of a knownpreneur as they go through this program? What happens for the entrepreneur?
So the first thing when you come to knownpreneurs is we want to know what your goals are. We want to be able to work with you in planning the 4 months here at knownpreneurs. And one of the things that we try to provide you is with a template, so that you could line up your goals. And we start with giving you some foresight. One of the first questions that we ask is, where do you see the business in a year? How much growth do you see your business going to be from last year to this year? And then we break down that year into months, and then we break down that revenue into what needs to happen for that goal to be successful. And when you start breaking down these things month to month, and I even break it down into a week, and even to a day in some cases, when we go one-on-one with some entrepreneurs, to a point where you start really connecting your foresight with what you do on a monthly basis, on a weekly basis, and you start kind of mapping out what it takes to get there. And kind of like there's a lot of aha moments when you do that. And that process that's being worked out not only when we're doing the training every week in the 2-hour process, 2 hours every week, but also in the 2 hours every month coaching process, which takes place, is what really gets you to in a new habit, a new routine of setting up goals and remaining accountable. The other thing that you have for entrepreneur, for knownpreneurs, is that every month we ask you to present to the classroom how you're doing with those goals. Show us your progress. Let's celebrate together the wins. And if you're stuck and you're actually having problems, just ask for help. And one of the most rewarding parts, more uplifting parts of the program is that session, exactly, because that's when this whole supportive process, solidarity, camaraderie takes place, and people really are there to help you. And I think that's what is really powerful about the Knownpreneur program, and also the community. You know, every Knownpreneur now has a Knownpreneur social event, and the Knownpreneur social event, which Barb, you're the one who coordinates that, involve 5 of our alumni graduates to present, to showcase their business, and we invite all the Knownpreneur community to the Known Coworking site, and it's a really nice celebration of knowing each other, connecting the dots. And one of the greatest things that I've seen there is that a lot of people from the same industry that already went through the program are really helping out the new ones that are coming on board. And I think that's fascinating. I think that's amazing. And also people who just say, you know what, I need employees, I need someone to help me, so and so. And it is so resourceful when you see that Rolodex of contacts, all local contacts or close by contacts. They're all up there and they're all helping each other. It's just fantastic.
Right. And I know I personally have done business with a number of the Knownpreneurs that I never would have met had I not met them here. And a couple of them have actually done, business with me briefly too, which has been really incredibly rewarding. So we're talking about all the yummy stuff. Tell me about challenges either for the Knownpreneurs program itself or the challenges that you're seeing that the actual Knownpreneurs are having.
Okay. All right. So there are two different things. So I'll address the challenges of a program like this. A program like this needs long-term support. And one of the things that I think that we need to work on the narrative of a lot of those funds that are really helping BIPOC entrepreneurs and other representative entrepreneurs is, the way we started was with a 6 months funding from CityNext. And we needed to do a cash matching process. That took us a lot of time to really take off and start really developing the program. And one of the reasons that takes a lot of time is because if you know that you're only going to have cash for 6 months, you can only do so much, right? So I think the long-term thinking is one where it says, the state or city and different government authorities says, identify the problem, look at the yardstick, what are we going to measure, and what are the organizations that could help us, deliver the best results there. So I think we start with that thinking, saying, let's do a 10-year plan, program, and let's measure progress. And then I think that will shift the whole situation. Now, having said that, we are now in a different position after running 3 cohorts, thanks to the Community Foundation Mission Investment Fund, which has secured for us 5 years of programming. Thanks to them. So we've been really, really well supported by them, and also as part of the consortium of entrepreneurs organizations in New Haven, we were also awarded a grant from the state, from the DECD recently, that's going to consummate, I think, the last quarter of the year. So all of this is really, really great news, and because a program like this develops through time, and it can only improve through time as you get feedback, and the community actually makes a lot of the program. So in our case, we're looking to graduate about 180 businesses in the next 5 years. We have graduated 35 already. So if you have a pool of more than 200 businesses 5 years from now, which you're actually collecting data from them in terms of revenue, how much growth in revenue you see, how many jobs you generate, and how many how much capital have you raised. Those are 3 of the variables that we collect 6 months after you graduate and 18 months after you graduate, and we have data points. And so far it's been very encouraging, Mark. We've seen an average of 40% growth just in revenue, just 6 months after the program.
That's incredible.
And by the way, that's taking out the outliers. Because we do like an acid test.
Okay.
But sometimes we have businesses that are, all of a sudden they they hit the jackpot, right?
Uh-huh.
So they're growing like at 200% in a year.
Right.
We're like, oh my God. So we take those out.
Oh, okay.
So and then we average the ones that are kind of like the same,
Right.
and that's how we get to the 40%.
Oh, okay, that's good to know. So question about this money from the DECD going to the consortium.
Yep.
What is that for? Is that for knownpreneurs or is it for something else?
So there are various pools of capital for, but there's a general pool that has to do with the infrastructure.
Okay.
So one of the things that the Community Foundation, Mission Investment Corporation, and what's called the NHE3, New Haven and Equitable Entrepreneurial Ecosystem. Thank you, Mark.
I can literally never say those words.
I'm so glad
it's so hard to say.
One of the things that we are all trying to address is really how can we improve the small business system that exists today. When I say that, I mean, how can we avoid what happened during COVID, where only a small percentage of the funds went to those businesses?
Right.
And why did that happen?
Right.
And how can we solve that?
Right.
All that. And we kind of know why, now, but we need to provide systems into it. And we need to make sure, for instance, we need to understand who does what and that journey. For instance, KNOWNpreneur focuses on later stage entrepreneurs, meaning once you're up and running. And we have an Acclerator program that takes you from A to B. But there are other organizations in the consortium that takes you from idea to actually starting a company. Right? So then you have a cluster there. Now, by the same token, you have actors in the community, entrepreneurship organizations that are focused not in just the local and regional businesses, but businesses that could become global, and they're really focused on technology. They're focused in innovation, biotech, like New Haven. It's at its core, right? And those businesses follow a different path. So when you're in the innovation world and you are optimizing for scaling globally, you are backed by venture capital, and your decisions are very different than when you are focusing on small businesses, local, regional, where your natural network is the banking network, all the lenders that are in there, and you're actually not scaling global, but I would say scaling more deeply into the community.
Right. Okay.
So that's our world right here. So what we're doing is really mapping all of that out, and also representing that to the community, so that they know that there's pathways and on ramps for their journey.
Right.
And if we achieve that, then the issues that we had during COVID, where about 40% of the Black businesses couldn't get off on their feet, that would not happen, or at least it would happen a lot less.
Right. Yeah, so I like the pathways and the on-ramp metaphor that you used. The word that kept coming into my mind was pipeline, and I mean both pipeline in terms of getting the money to the people that need it, but also pipeline of entrepreneurs know I go here and I go there and then I go here, or I go here for this and here for that, and also where the entrepreneurship serving organizations know each other, have relationships with each other, and say, hey, you need to take a look at this person, or can you help me think about blah 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 blah, what's going on with that. So this is great. So you were talking about the challenges to the program. What about challenges that the actual entrepreneurs in the KNOWNpreneurs program, what are they facing?
Well, they're facing a number of things. One of the things that is that I see most evident is that that they are once you have a little bit of success selling something or servicing something, you tend to just repeat that, and you're so it's really trying to make sure that you're open to that change of there's better ways to do it. So
innovating.
In terms of innovating, and we're not talking about technology here. I'm talking about innovation in terms of processing.
Like the way that you think about,
And I think that one of the classes that we do, which is very good, helps you in that mindset, is really Productivity by Ray Callahan. and bringing the technology tools
Mhm.
to what you do.
Rick Callahan and Julia Valley.
And Julia and Valley. I'm glad you mentioned Julia, because she's also working on that as well, and in social media, and together they'll helping entrepreneurs really provide a better platform to, I would say, to grow lean, to grow light,
Right.
Right.
Work smarter, not harder. Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Right.
So, and I think nowadays it's such a great world and new world that it's well, it.
Yeah, so many productivity tools. It's incredible. Like he ribs me all the time because I use the Pomodoro technique when I work. And if you don't know about it, it's a productivity technique where you work in a 25-minute segment and you take a 5-minute break. And I just want to give a plug for it because I am someone who is a recovered multitasker. And I've always been very productive, but I am so much more productive now because what happens for me is I am able to focus in that 25 minutes and get into flow. And if you don't know what flow is, it's a state where you've experienced it most likely. Maybe you weren't doing work, maybe you were doing something like, playing a game or knitting or something like that. But the idea is when you get into flow, it's like time evaporates. You're so focused on what you're doing that you lose sight of everything else. And when you're working and doing that, the amount of productivity that you can have and the creativity that you can tap into is insane. And so what used to happen for me when I first started doing it is I would have all these ideas of I should be doing this, I should be doing that. So in the past, what I would do is stop what I was doing and go do that. And I don't anymore. And so now I plug those things, those ideas of things I should be doing into my calendar instead of on a to-do list. And I'm able to 100% focus without feeling any guilt at all about I should be doing these things and that. And I get so much more done. And then the 5-minute break, what I do personally, number one, it breaks your brain. Like you get a break in your mind. You need that, but also my body. So I get up and I live in a townhouse. So I make sure at minimum I go up and down the stairs at least once because Shayna from Fitstyle Shayna tells me that sitting is the new smoking. So I want to move my body, and moving my body also helps my brain so that when I come back to it, I am fresh.
Yes.
And I can dive back into that flow again. So that is technology. Yes, you could use a regular timer, but I use something that's built in on the internet. And there's so many other productivity tools that exist for technology. I mean, I have a thing that reminds me to drink water every few hours. Yep. I have an app that reminds me on certain to-dos that I wanted, like I meditate twice a day. Like those, I wouldn't remember to do that without those apps. Anyway, that's
that's amazing. That's amazing. I'm learning every year. One of the things that it's so cool about this new business, because real estate is not like that, all that. But the fact that you have people like Barb that teaches you all that, and the entrepreneurs that we work with, there's always a teaching moment. There's always something. It just they keep you on your toes. Always. So it's so intellectually stimulating.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, agreed. Yeah. I mean, I think being an entrepreneur, they say there is no personal development program like being an entrepreneur. I would say because I'm in 12-step recovery, except for recovery, but it's really because if you're a growth-oriented person, you have to learn constantly, and you also have to get good at falling down and getting back up. Right. Like you're gonna fall. Like there's I think it's a Japanese proverb: fall down 8 times, get up 9.
Oh,
because that's what happens. Humans fall down, and the successful entrepreneur is someone who gets back up.
Right.
Right.
It's like they say that you don't win or lose, you win or learn.
Right. I love it. So you mentioned one of the successes, which was a mental health serving organization that quintupled their revenue in 1 year. Can you talk about some of the other successes that you've seen?
Well, I've seen in home care, I've seen a lot of successes in terms of really building up a team quickly and really pinpointing where to go and being strategic about where to go. One of our entrepreneurs actually they hit about more than $2 million recently, and it belongs to the third cluster of entrepreneurs that I was talking about. That third cluster that is growing so fast and have no idea, and they're going to crash if they continue that way. So much so that I procured a grant for this particular entrepreneur post graduation. Nice. And now we have a consultant working with that entrepreneur to map out HR, human resources, map, roadmap.
Mm-hmm.
We're doing a new budget. We're doing improvements on the operation, the accounting, the system that the person is using.
Right.
I mean, after all this process, she's going to have a dashboard of how to run her business.
Yeah.
And this is someone who's, big hard, works 16 hours a day, if not more. But she never had a business school behind. She doesn't have a business teaching. She has a right-hand person that's really organized, instructor, and help her greatly. But she, as the visionary of the business, needed to have her own dashboard to see how the business will grow. She wants to grow this business into a $25 million business, Mark.
Nice.
And I think she's going to make it.
Yeah.
And we're going to be celebrating together.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's those are a couple of successes from that individual entrepreneurs. What would you say are successes of the program itself?
Well, I think one of the successes, I think we have something to share with every cohort. I think the success of the last cohort is the partnership with the Community Economic Development Fund. The fact that we can give $10,000 or more in lines of credit when you graduate. And more importantly, we could go retroactively. So we went to cohort 1 and cohort 2 and offer it to them. And what's coming in the pipeline is very exciting. We're going to be able to work along with our organizations in really working on grants. We're going to be working on grants.
Yeah, I know that's what everybody's waiting for.
Yeah, I know.
How do we get the money we don't have to pay back?
I know. So my ideal scenario is that once you graduate and you take that line of credit, we have a 18 to 24 month path where you go to the different stages. By different stages is, you were trying to stabilize cash flow, you're stabilized. You were trying to grow your business from stability to growth, and you're at that stage. You grew your business, and now you want to scale to new territories or whatever, and then you get it. That's what I mean by stages, right? So we want to be able to, every time that you go to that next stage, to make sure that you have the grant and the loan, the capital that you need to get to that next level, and get you quickly from 1 to 2 to 3, and be able to track that. And really then come back to a program and really identify what were the levers that helped you get there.
Right. Okay. So one of the things you really haven't touched on that I know that's also kind of in the works is this idea of providing a marketplace for the entrepreneurs. And so one of the ways I know that we're starting that is we have a partnership with the Greater New Haven Chamber of Commerce. And one of the cool things for the knownpreneurs is when they graduate from the program, they automatically get a free one-year annual membership annual membership in the chamber, which is normally a $500 value, and that actually kind of gets them into connected into the business environment here in New Haven. But say more about the plan for the marketplace.
I'm so glad you touched on that, because like I said, the 5 C's. The capital, the community, the coaching, the capacity, and the customers. So you're hitting on the last one, the customers. The customers, the marketplace, and all that, and that translates into really networking. That's the events that we do. We do about 40 events per year. But that's also translating to the continuity of that networking into bigger companies, and that's where the connection with the Chamber of Commerce comes into play. The one of the trends that is happening with all these companies is that they all want to have quotas of diversity procurement suppliers.
Right. It's about damn time.
Right.
Okay.
And in terms of the things that we are working towards is that we want that to make sure that part of the program addresses that, so that if you have any service that could be matched with companies in the area, we immediately connect you and train you to get there.
Okay.
So that we expand your marketplace.
Wonderful.
And also we certify you as minority.
Okay.
So that pathway is one that we are exploring and we're developing, and we're talking to the right people who already are actually the movers and shakers in that topic.
Right. Okay. That sounds fantastic. And so, it sounds like what you're saying is when larger businesses in this area want to start working and with minority-owned businesses, knownpreneurs is the place to come to find those businesses that they can work with.
Yeah, I like to say that. I think that we are in the first inning.
Right. Yeah. Right.
You
Because,
know?
like you said, we have 35,
Right.
knownpreneurs in our alumni network.
Right.
After this next cohort, we'll have 47.
Right.
And it's going to keep growing over the
Yeah.
years.
Well, what's going to happen is that a lot of the folks like this entrepreneur that I mentioned, they said at a $2 million
Mhm.
revenue. You start looking at more robust businesses
Mhm. Mhm.
that are actually really in their
Mhm.
prime time to really serve as suppliers of services
Right.
to those organizations.
Yeah.
Those organizations demand a lot of discipline,
Right,
processes,
right.
structures, systems, and all
Mhm.
that.
Mhm.
So it's not going to be an overnight thing.
Right. Right.
But if I could do, if we could deliver, in 4 months, a big progress
Mhm.
to get you there, and then there might be another program that takes off from Knownpreneur
Mhm.
to get you there.
Right.
Well, that's amazing.
Right.
That's
Okay.
great because you have a
Okay.
whole career, and
Okay.
it doesn't have to be known doing
Right,
doing
right,
everything.
right.
It's more about
Yeah.
alliances and
Yeah.
consortium.
Well, that's where this sounds like the NHE3 comes in handy. So
Right.
maybe instead of coming to Knownpreneurs program, they're part of the NHE3, and they're like, oh, this is the consortium of businesses that we want to connect with because they can connect us to the minority-owned businesses. And this is where the capacity we're talking about, because
Right.
they have to have the systems in place and the capacity to serve a much larger customer.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So what I see in the Small Business Administration report of what they gather for entrepreneurs today
Mhm.
is they track the number of hours that they provide services to an entrepreneur. But I couldn't see in that system what was the impact of that training.
Right. That's interesting.
And you would
Variable.
right? And you would think that really?
Yeah.
Well, it turns out that the system that today exists is not really tracking social impact, socioeconomic impact. So if you don't track socioeconomic impact, how are you going to improve your
Right.
systems? How are you
Right.
going to,
Right.
so one of the things that we're really failing miserable is really not having a system that really tracks socioeconomic impact. All
Right.
the programs that we have.
Right. Yeah. So I want to start wrapping up soon, but I want to hear, like, for you personally, what has been the most rewarding part of all this?
Well, I think that I enjoy every success. I enjoy everything when somebody says, when those aha moments take place. When people say, hey, like Juan. Like Juan came today and he said, hey, this changed my life. He was those things are just so rewarding that you were able to share some of your experience or connect it to someone you know. Like what happened to you when you connect people and you're like,
Yeah.
oh my God,
Yeah.
I made that happen, and then I now look at you and enjoying the success of
Yeah.
other people.
Yeah.
It's just so rewarding.
Yeah.
I think that I can't point to just a single thing.
Yeah.
It's just a flow.
Right.
Like
Okay. Yeah. And so what's next? What's next for Knownpreneurs? What's the future?
Well, I think that we I like to see that we complete the whole vision of the 5 Cs, like I said, that we connect all of that in a way that is integrated, that we could create this scorecard, that we could go tomorrow to any institution and say, look, we made it happen. It works. This is the logic model for the program. And if you invest $1 here, you're going to have $3 later on in the next 3 to 5 years. If we could point at that, and we could show, and we could be validated by third-party organizations, then that's a win.
Which,
That's
by
a
the
huge
way,
win.
we're going to be having an evaluation
Exactly.
by some folks from the University of New Haven. That's going to be starting in October. That's really exciting.
Yes.
Which, by the way, is a connection that I made.
Thanks, Mark.
Yeah, you're welcome. Is there anything else that I haven't specifically asked you about that you were just dying to share that you haven't had an opportunity to talk about yet?
Wow. Yeah. No, I think we hit a lot of the major points. I'm sure that the program's going to end, and then I'm going to regret it, right?
Yeah. Well, you can come back because I know you had some slides you wanted to show. We really don't have time for that. Plus, your computer died.
Yeah.
So maybe you can come back another time.
Just to wrap it up,
Mhm.
this reducing the ethnic wealth gap in the United States, the income gaps and the wealth gap.
Right.
It's a $5 trillion. The U.S. cannot afford to get to 2050 when those two roots
Mhm.
become 40% of the country,
Right.
and they're still at 8 to 10 times wealth
Mhm.
lower than the white coat.
Mhm.
It cannot
Right.
be supported. It cannot be
Right.
supported as a
Yeah.
nation. Remain competitive.
Right.
You have to
Yeah.
nurture your domestic market.
Mhm. Right. Right.
So it's not that what we do here that is micro, that is just localized in the state of Connecticut.
Mhm.
This is a major concern
Right.
for a country.
Right.
So I think
Right.
that if we have that mindset, that outlook,
Mhm.
I think we're going to be able
Right.
to really do a lot.
Right. And wouldn't that be cool if we had a proof of concept here that could be expanded, elsewhere in the nation?
Amazing.
That would be incredible. All right. Well, I think we're going to close up now. Thank you so much, Juan. This has been really great. I've really enjoyed having the time to talk to you.
Likewise.
So I'm going to take him off screen just by turning the camera. And I do want to share a couple of things before I go. And that is that you can check out the replay on our website. We'll also be sending it out. Even if you are watching a recording of this. Oh, Celeste Tapia said hi. Hi, Celeste. So glad you joined us. Glad you're here. Sorry I missed your comment earlier. Also, we don't have the next scheduled Connection Corner, but be on the lookout for Digital Media Sync. And as a reminder, Known Coworking is open for networking and co-working, designated desks and private offices. And you can catch the replays on our website. We have over 100 episodes. And again, I want to thank you so much for your time. Enjoy the day.